Hello and welcome to today's video. It's Victoria with Nutrition by Victoria. I have a master's of science degree in human nutrition, and I'm here to help you build a high functioning metabolism with a high carbohydrate, low fat diet. You get to eat unlimited carbs, unlimited calories, and get the body of your dreams. You get to get and stay effortlessly slim, lean, fit, and most importantly, healthy while experiencing the ultimate level of food freedom. Eating all your favorite foods, just low fat versions, if fat loss is the goal. So it's a little bit chaotic here because I actually filmed this video already and my computer shut off by accident. So you'll just have to bear with me while I do like a rapid fire Q&A on the responding to your comments and questions from the video I did about Fully Raw Christina nutritionist reviews, Fully Raw Christina's high protein raw vegan diet. So let's get right into it. There is nothing wrong with going over the RDA for protein, especially if it's only coming from high carb sources like fruits, vegetables, grains, and pulses. RDAs are not upper limits. That is correct. RDAs are more of like an average. It's a recommended daily allowance. Okay. So I'd say though, it's best to stick around the RDA, which is 46 grams a day for women for protein, 56 grams a day for men, because any excess consumption of protein can put stress on your kidney function and you just end up urinating it out. We don't have a mechanism for storing protein. We can recycle protein. We recycle about 70 to 100 grams of endogenous protein daily, which is why our intake of protein, the RDA is not that high. So, okay. You did a great job analyzing, and it was interesting seeing someone doing high carb with more fat and protein for bulking. Yeah. So I agreed. I thought that, Fully Raw Christina's macros, which were about 70% carbs, 15% fat, 15% protein, are, great for somebody who is trying to put on muscle and isn't so concerned about fat loss. It's a way to eat a high carb, low fat diet still and maintain insulin sensitivity. But if fat loss is the goal, you're going to have to be stricter about your fat intake. That salad photo gives me a stomach ache. So yeah, we're going to show that here. Oh, here it is. Okay. Yeah, so this salad bowl that Christina consumed is enormous, and it contains a lot of like foods that don't digest very well. So you've got raw beets, any kind of raw starch is going to be hard to digest. You got raw onions, which are high in sulfur content. You've got cabbage in there, which again, high sulfur content. You have a lot of insoluble fiber here, which can be problematic for anybody who has digestive issues, particularly IBS, but also for somebody who has like Crohn's or colitis. You want to have more soluble fiber than insoluble fiber in your diet. It's not that salads are bad. It's just, this is not necessary. It's better to eat some starchy carbs at night. They just digest better, give you more energy. Even though the salad is like really super nutrient dense, a lot of this is going to stay bound to the fiber. And you're not going to be able to absorb it. So that's just something to keep in mind as well. I do eat vegetables every night, but I have them with a big starch meal. And then like when I used to eat huge salads like this, when I'd have my experiment with, being raw vegan, I just found I got bloated after having something like this. My belly would be like super distended, like I was pregnant, whereas I just don't get that anymore. I might have a little bit of a paunch after eating my starch meal at night just because it does digest slower than, the fruits and sugars that I eat all day. So that's just something, to keep in mind. That digestive rate is going to be impacted by a salad like this. It's just going to go through the system pretty slow. But I can imagine with Christina being raw vegan, predominantly raw vegan for the last, 20 years almost, that she is a pretty good gut in terms of like health and strength. Okay, Freely did a water fast years ago, but it never got her any results until she didn't restrict in carbs and she ramped up her fitness. Yeah, fasting doesn't get you anywhere with the meeting the getting the results that you desire, which for most people is fat loss and getting fitter, right? So if those are your goals, you want to avoid fasting. Now, fasting will lower your insulin levels while you're fasting, but then as soon as you put food back in, your body's programmed for fat storage. It's programmed for insulin resistance. So it's going to take the food that you eat, put it into storage. It's just a survival mechanism. Love the little cutie pie helping you out. Yeah, he's a little cray man these days. Super cute, but super rambunctious. A gallon is 128 ounces. Yes, my math was wrong with this video. I kept saying that she had a gallon of juice when it was only 64 ounces. But, total for the day, she had 3/4 of a gallon of juice between this juice and this next one. So that is an extensive amount of liquid. That's 3 liters. I generally recommend that people drink 3 liters of water a day as a goal for proper hydration. But that is an exorbitant amount of green juice to have as your breakfast. I personally, I enjoy some volume, but I also enjoy having more calorie density there as well. So it's much more satiating that I'm not running to the bathroom every 5 minutes. Okay, genuine question because nobody has answered this for me. Could you share a link to the study or studies that claim a high protein intake damages your kidneys? Yes, the Cleveland Clinic posted. They have this article here that says a high protein diet is popular for weight loss, but it may have some negative effects on kidney health. A high protein diet can contribute to kidney damage by increasing the stress on the kidneys to process the excess protein. This can also result in more protein coming out in the urine, which is a sign of kidney damage. High protein diet may also worsen how well a kidney works in people with kidney disease. Additionally, some high protein diets may limit carbs and fiber or allow foods high in saturated fat, which can cause other health problems. So that is from the Cleveland Clinic here. You can check that out. That is a good reference for information is the Cleveland Clinic. And then it looks like there's some more, hits here for this is the National Institute of Health, the effects of high protein diets on kidney health. So you can check that out. Okay, but this is rapid fire, so we're going to keep going. Okay. How long can one fast without increasing insulin resistance? You run out of glycogen and you turn on gluconeogenesis, you are programming your body to be insulin resistant. Okay, so you want to avoid running out of glycogen, which means that average person is going to be like 80% glycogen depleted by the time they wake up in the morning. So cortisol is also going to be elevated in the morning, which is going to be driving more sugar into the cells to wake you up and help you to go find food without bonking, right? But depending on how much you ate the day before, how full your glycogen stores are, you could already be in gluconeogenesis, particularly if your fasting glucose is elevated. If it's not, and you have healthy fasting glucose levels, you're still going to want to eat something within about 30 minutes of waking that is like sugary to tell your body, hey, there's food available. Maybe even sooner than that, like 10 minutes after waking. So within 10 to 30 minutes of waking, you're going to want to put something in your body that is carbohydrate dense to prevent your body from thinking that it's starving. So you're down regulating gluconeogenesis and you're starting to fill your glycogen stores back up. So most people sleep 8-10 hours a night, maybe less than that, but the more sleep you get, the better. But you generally need to be replenishing glycogen after 12 hours. And I would say I probably fast, anywhere from 10 to 12 hours a night. Very rare where I'm like, getting that much sleep and ate dinner that early where it's like 14 hours by the time I'm eating something, but that's just to give reference. As soon as you eat something, as soon as you wake up, make sure you eat something within 10 to 30 minutes. Okay, a lot of people saying that 64 ounces is a half gallon, not a gallon. Yes, I know. Math was not my best subject in school. I was really good at science. Math, particularly calculus, I struggled with. Okay. Okay, next question. Love to know if you have a video on how the body burns carbs and fats together, even if you are getting enough calories from carbs. So it's not about calories in, calories out. It's about your insulin sensitivity. And if you have enough carbohydrates to properly run the TCA cycle to encourage fatty acid oxidation. So we're talking about carbs are the kindling, fats are the log. Okay. We need to get the kindling going in order to get those logs burning. So that is the way that it works. I go into more detail about this in my coaching program, link in the description. I did think it was one or the other into this video, but I also know we breathe out fat. Yeah. So we're never just burning carbs or fat. We're burning both, but at varying ratios and at varying rates, depending on what's going on in your insulin sensitivity. And we breathe out fat in the form of carbon dioxide through aerobic respiration. I'd be interested to find out how much fat I can burn off when I am on a low fat, high carb diet, only on day 4. And I mainly focus on getting the fat consumption down. It just niggles at me how it works though. Get a copy of my coaching program. Everything's in there. Mainly just heard about how the body runs hotter and excess carb calories can be urinated out. That is true, but most people aren't going to be maxing out their glycogen storage capacity every single day. Okay. Because even when we're replenishing glycogen, which happens after a meal, we are going to be utilizing that glucose as well for in between meals, for sleeping, for exercise, whatever. So we're always filling it up and then depleting it, filling it up and depleting it, filling up and depleting it. The only time where excess carbs are going to be like spilled over is when your body is coming from a state of being insulin resistant because the carbohydrates have been lacking in the diet. So the body's going to be more programmed for fat storage. But we can urinate out excess carbohydrates. And we can, carbs do increase our body temperature as well. I remember early on when I was going from being a fat storer to a fat burner, I would have like night sweats. And this is my metabolic rate increasing. And then eventually the fat loss happened afterwards. So now my body just naturally runs hotter, but now that my body fat percentage just went down, I still get cold when it's cold outside as well. Okay, but even then I thought it was like a sweat oxidation that loses fat storage when running hotter. What it is that your metabolic rate is higher, so the need for more fats to be oxidized to generate energy is what's going on. You have glucose that's running in the cycle and fatty acids that are feeding into the cycle to provide more acetyl-CoA and also succinyl-CoA to like run the cycle and to generate ATP. And then the higher your metabolic rate is, the faster you're going to be able to oxidize fat. So what else is coming on here? But they're saying overall my vision is getting better. My visible water retention or inflammation is way down in other parts of my body. So more than willing to persist. And yeah, I mean, that sounds like you're moving from insulin resistance to insulin sensitivity. And it is a process. So you have to be patient and you have to be consistent because the results accumulate over time. And that's how they stick. And that's how the weight loss becomes effortless. And it's all about you becoming insulin sensitive so that your body just naturally, burns more fat. And It doesn't hold on to water weight associated with hormonal imbalance. The other thing that I wanted to mention here too is that the higher VO2 max is, the more fat you're going to burn as well. So exercise does factor in here. The fitter you are, the more fat you're going to burn because the more oxygen you can take in. So oxygen drives aerobic respiration, but then it does so with glucose. So oxygen and glucose drive ATP generation in our cells. What does the nutritional science say about the bioavailability of these so-called raw plant proteins? I think that the thing with plant proteins, if they're particularly bound to fiber, it's likely that Christina's not absorbing all the protein that's in her diet. But when it is in the form of like juice or the form of like that powdered like collagen supplement, which Drew Morg talks about next, that is going to be more bioavailable because it's been processed. And then it also says, I think it should be stated that the Sun Warrior collagen powder she is using for the bowl is actually a pea protein powder supplement. Yeah, it's likely that that's not raw either. I'd also be curious to see her blood results consuming a relatively high amount of fat for that many carbs. You would think there would be some insulin resistance. No, with a question mark. She said that her blood work is all good, and I would say that a 70-15-15 macro split of carbs to fat to protein is the cutoff for staying insulin sensitive with a higher fat, higher protein intake. Now, this is all going to depend though on you and what your goals are. Christina's not trying to lose weight. She's trying to gain muscle and probably gain weight. So it's a more of an anabolic ratio of carbs to fat to protein within like insulin sensitive percentages, if that makes any sense. So it's generally what I recommend to like bodybuilders who aren't interested particularly in losing size, because protein and fat are anabolic nutrients, but we also want to remain with our insulin working properly. And really, insulin resistance becomes more of an issue when you've been restricting carbohydrates, which Christina hasn't. I mean, she has dabbled with like fasting, and that hasn't been very beneficial for her insulin function in that regard. But she's been relatively consistent over the last 20 years. Here, though. Okay. But she has been really consistent with her carbohydrate intake. She originally started with the 80-10-10 diet. And then it's kind of evolved for her based on her goals. And the other thing to note is that collagen supplements are total scam. You don't make collagen from consuming collagen. You need its precursors, which are vitamin C and like certain amino acids. Okay, we'll just bang out a few more. What are some calorie dense fruits? Does anyone have a chart I could use that ranks calorie dense fruits or something? I'm very new to this lifestyle. So sorry if this is a dumb question, but I'm trying very hard to do this. Also, what do you think of smoothies for breakfast? Calorie dense fruits are going to be like jackfruit, bananas, dates, but most fruits are low calorie density, okay? Especially if they are high water content. So to make fruit meals more calorie dense, you can have them in juice form. You can add sugar. You can have smoothies. You can have smoothie bowls. You can include dates. That'll bump up the calorie density. Freely, the banana girl, was the queen of having high calorie density fruit meals. She would have banana smoothies, Dietary, bananas on their own, bananas with coconut sugar, dates on their own. She would make like an apple date banana dessert. It's all game. Just make sure you're getting in the calories. What do I think of smoothies for breakfast? I think they're great. So generally how I eat is I wake up in the morning, I have some water, I have something sugary, I do some exercise, and then I'm ready for breakfast. So I might have a smoothie, I might have a fruit meal and add some sugar to it, it's all good. Christina's dad is a fruit and vegetable wholesaler, so she has access to way more volume of items to make these juices than the rest of the world. Yeah, I mean, like the diet that she proposes is so impractical for the majority of people. I mean, unless you have like a lot of money and then access to this produce, but there's a better way. You don't have to be fully raw, and you don't certainly have to buy the supplements that Christina is selling. Just eat a high carb, low fat diet that is based on fruits, vegetables, starches, legumes if desired, and sugar to taste. Okay, I think Christina is doing this kind of video for money and views. In the past, she was against supplements and promoted a high carb lifestyle. Uh, Check on her videos from 10 to 12 years ago when she had no sponsors. She has a huge orchard. She could eat from her garden only. She makes so much money from YouTube, book courses, retreats. She could live without all those commercials to protein powders. Also, protein powders processed, isolated, and not raw at all. Yeah, I mean, I agree. But Christina is a businesswoman. She comes from a business family and she's just maximizing her ability to profit from her business and her viewers and her customers. I wonder if she eats enough for her activity level. She works on her farm, which burns tons of calories. And she also, last I remember, does hot yoga, which burns tons of calories per session. She is also eating only 2,500 calories. Seems a little on the low side to me. Yeah, I mean, I probably eat like 3,500 calories a day, and I'm pretty active as well. But she probably has help, she probably has somebody like cleaning her, you know, juicing equipment, her smoothie equipment. She probably has somebody helping her on her farm. She doesn't show that, but I'm sure she has a team of people who are helping her run her little business. Actually, it's a big business. She has like 1.5 million subs on YouTube. Who can afford to eat like that, yet alone have access to all those superfoods and supplements? Fully raw Christina. Victoria, wouldn't be less of an effort and time consuming for you to make more lives and less videos? The video quality with the live is so much better. Just a suggestion. Like you could expand the lives and do them more days of the week. Well, I appreciate that you enjoy my lives. Right now, once a week is working for me. I film on my phone with the lives and some of the videos that some of the other videos that I upload, everything that goes on my Instagram, and a lot of my older stuff that I've filmed with my phone. I like using my desktop to show you guys my screen and share more information like in a visual way. I know the quality is not that great. I need to get a new webcam. But I will be doing a live this week. It might happen tomorrow. It might happen Friday morning, but I'm going to be busy Friday afternoon because my kids are off school. So I will keep you guys updated. Just keep a lookout. Make sure you're subscribed to my channel so you can get a notification for when I post about when my lives are going to be up. That's the other thing is that lives require attendance. So otherwise I'm just like talking to the camera. I really enjoy your questions and answering them on there. So I want people to be able to participate. And then, like everybody's in various time zones and, some people have jobs like while I'm, up. So I try to pick a time that's going to work for, enough people. Okay. Yeah, somebody else is saying 64 ounces is a half a gallon. I realize that. I apologize for the for the miscalculation. Still a ridiculous amount because with a 32 ounces, that's 3/4 of a gallon within a couple hours, which is an insane amount of juice. It's also quite a lot of vegetables to juice as well, which is insanely expensive. Absolutely. Most people can't afford to do that. Most people aren't doing that. And not to mention, too, I was juicing celery juice for a little while. And then I ended up having like hives because a lot of these greens, they contain like anti-nutrients that when consumed in moderate amounts don't affect people, but when they are juiced like this and then consumed regularly, you can end up having issues, particularly if you have oral allergy syndrome or you have like grass allergies. Okay, Fully Raw Christina is following the footsteps of high carb Hannah and raw food romance, high greens, high fats, low carbs. Too bad they don't know who Peter Rogers is. They would come to realize protein and fats is a non-issue, eating sufficient carbs, and also feels amazing. 100%. Most people don't know anything about nutrition. And I'm not saying that, Christina doesn't, but most people think carbs are bad and that greens and fats are where it's at in terms of nutrition. Now, these foods can be highly nutritious, but we don't need to consume, a lot of them in comparison to carbohydrates because that's what's supplying our energy needs. But Christina's diet is still 70% carbs. So she's not doing that bad. I like Peter Rogers. He's great. Problem though is he eats one meal a day, which is totally unnecessary. You're going to be causing some insulin resistance there from sticking to that kind of a meal plan. He's also anti-fructose, which, according to the studies done on fructose is a non-issue in the majority of people. And the people who end up with non-alcoholic fatty liver disease have insulin resistance. It's not the fructose. It's the fact that they have been eating a diet that's been promoting insulin resistance. Okay. Would love you to do a video on some of these issues that pop up for people, iron/iodine intake. Yeah, iron is a non-issue on a high carb, low fat diet. Iron absorption is enhanced by vitamin C and sugar. So I also have supplemented with iron. I like to use the Flamingo brand that's available on Amazon. It's very easy to digest and it comes with other nutrients that help with its absorption. Iodine's a non-issue as well if you're eating a little bit of seaweed every week. And also iodine is found in varying amounts in fruits and vegetables. So that is those two, check. You have to be careful with iron though if you're consuming a lot of legumes, which are a good source of iron, but they contain anti-iron nutrients, so it can interfere with absorption. Same with whole grains, which is why I personally stick to a high fruit, white rice, sugar to taste, vegetables included diet. I used to be anemic even when I was eating animal products, and my mom had me eating like red meat and taking iron supplements, and I was still not able to get my hemoglobin where it needed to be in my hematocrit. And now it's always right in the middle. Even though people are saying that I have breathing problems, so I must be anemic. I'm still recovering from a sinus infection, by the way. But also public speaking is like, for me, it requires a lot of energy. So burning a lot of calories here. But yeah, my hemoglobin and hematocrit and ferritin always register normal range now, but I have to stick to this high carbohydrate, high sugar diet, or else my levels will fall. And then I do supplement too with the Flamingo Iron Multivitamin that's available on Amazon. I'll leave a link for it in the description of this video. And I feel like that gives me an extra boost because I'm breastfeeding. So they recommended that I continue to take prenatal to help just provide a little extra that the baby's going to need and prevent him from, having any issues as well. But what I find is that my body will give him everything and then leave me with nothing. So I prefer it that way, but I just gotta, take care of myself as well. Does this diet cause cavities as many are claiming? I go to the dentist in 2 weeks, and every single time I go to the dentist, I never have a cavity. I go every 6 months to get a cleaning, and I follow proper dental hygiene. I brush twice a day, floss every day, stay hydrated, but I've never had any issues with my teeth on this diet. Also the high sugar content and how it relates to feeding cancers. Dr. Thomas Seyfried suggests the opposite of what is recommended here. Just curious to know your thoughts. Cancer is a result of insulin resistance. So, the concept of sugar feeding cancer comes from the fact that there's insulin resistance present. Okay. So, we have to address the underlying cause, which is the insulin resistance, in order to have the best outcome in terms of cancer prevention and reversal. Okay, so you have to become insulin sensitive, and that will give your body the best bang for its buck in terms of down regulating cancer. So, IGF-1 is elevated when you have cancer. Okay, it drives tumor cell growth. Insulin resistance promotes IGF-1 elevation. So you have to, again, address the root cause, which is insulin resistance. What reverses insulin resistance is a high carb, low fat diet. Percival Himsworth determined this in 1934 with the dietetic factors influencing glucose tolerance and the activity of insulin. Just got to pull it up. This is my favorite study. Okay, this is from the National Library of Medicine. It is now established that the sugar tolerance is impaired by starvation or the taking of diets with a high content of fat, while it is improved by the taking of diets containing excess of carbohydrates. So it all starts from there. And the people who are arguing that sugar is a problem are not looking at the underlying cause that is resulting in the problem itself. Okay. So it's not that these people are wrong. They're just not seeing the full picture. And there's a lot of dogma out there. There's a lot of low carb dogma of people just not understanding metabolic science and the research in relation to insulin resistance. Okay, that's a tremendous amount of fiber. Yeah, she totaled 100 grams of fiber for that day because I went back to the chronometer data and looked at it. I was like, whoo, I've done 100 grams of fiber before. But it's uncomfortable. You take a big bowel movement, but it can really irritate your colon as well to have that much volume in there. Yeah, and I feel like I start having issues with my gut when I'm like over 70 grams of fiber a day. But like, so like 25 to 60 grams of fiber, golden. 25 is like the minimum intake of fiber that is recommended. Wouldn't the tremendous amount of fiber defeat the high carb, low fat purpose, considering the amount of short chain fatty acids the hindgut produces from the fiber? It's not going to work the same. You're not going to be storing this as fat. Okay. This whole short chain fatty acid metabolism is going to be different than consuming actual saturated dietary fat. Okay. How does that juice equate to 1,000 calories? It's mostly greens. Well, I think when you get to that amount of juice, green juice, where it's 3 liters of green juice, so that's like 300 calories each in a liter, I think that the numbers add up. She's also adding some fruit to these green juices. I think the one was more calorie dense than the other. Yeah, this one for a liter contained 528 calories. And then for the one that was more like celery based, it contained 420 calories. So, vegetables still contain sugars. They just contain less than fruits. So that's where some of the calories are coming from. But still, like, I would much rather eat 1,000 calories of fruit than 1,000 calories of green juice. It's going to be more affordable and less time consuming in terms of like making it. And then you don't have to consume as much volume. That's kind of ridiculous. Some people are, high volume eaters, and that's, how Christina operates, but it's just not necessary. I've personally found, coming from a background of having digestive issues, that having really high volume meals just doesn't do well with my GI system. It stresses it out too much. I can't do juice. It makes me feel weird and shaky, but if I eat the whole fruit I'm using, fine and feel great. Slamming back that much sugar in liquid form with no fiber is not natural in nature. I disagree with that. Well, one, those juices aren't high in sugar at all. It's just the volume adds up with the calories. So if you are having feelings of feeling weird and shaky after having juice, it's likely that you have some insulin resistance there. And I would highly recommend taking an oral glucose tolerance test to see what's really going on. It's good to hear you do fine with fruit and whole form because the fiber is there to help regulate the release of the sugar into the blood. But if you can't drink juice without feeling funky, like I said, it's likely that you have a little bit of insulin resistance and you need to address the fat content of your diet, maybe up the carbohydrates. But yeah, the reason why I said slamming back that much sugar in liquid form with no fiber is not natural in nature. Like I said, the oral glucose tolerance test uses a 50 to 100 gram glucose solution in water to test for insulin sensitivity. And that's not natural, but it is the way to diagnose. That's what HP Hemsworth came up with in terms of diagnosing insulin resistance or insulin sensitivity in somebody. Also, Brix value is a factor here. And the fruits that have the highest Brix value have the highest sugar content, and that they also have the highest nutrient density as well in nature. So, high sugar does equate to high nutrient density in nature in regards to fruit. Her dad is a millionaire from oil. I think she has it so easy. Yes, Christina comes from a lot of money. She used to live in Houston, Texas, and I do believe that her father is an oil tycoon. The Mastering Diabetes crew, who have incredible info and their healing stories speak for themselves, do recommend intermittent fasting, though not for those who have diabetes type 1. I wonder why. Not sure if I've heard them link fasting with insulin resistance, but fasting does cause insulin resistance. Now, HP Hemsworth determined the cause for insulin resistance here, okay? And sugar tolerance is impaired by starvation. Fasting signals to your body that it's starving. Fasting or starvation is your body running out of sugars, okay? And this happens very quickly after we do an overnight fast. Okay, so the overnight fast is fine, but when we get up for the day, we need to eat. When we fast, it lowers circulating insulin levels, but it programs our body to be insulin resistant after the fast. And most people don't realize this because they don't reference the right information. Okay, would have loved this video more without your child screaming. It is what it is right now. My life is blissful chaos. Right now, my children are watching the babies so that I can finish this video and get it out there for you guys. So I've been told by some highly successful YouTubers that it's better to just put the content out there if it's not perfect. If the child's screaming, if you forgot something, like yesterday in my video with Hadley, I cut us out of the video by accident by messing around with Zoom during the video. But yeah, I put it up anyways because you know what? Life isn't perfect. Technical difficulties are going to happen. Screaming children are going to happen, and you just have to roll with it. And for me, it's better for me to just get the information out there for you guys in whatever way is going to make sense. Like, people have criticized me for the, quality of my webcam. I'm going to be getting a new webcam, but until then, it is what it is. At least I'm getting it out. But she wants to gain muscle, and so eating the RDA is very hard to put on muscle at only 46 grams of protein. That's not true. You can put on muscle by training and eating sufficient protein and making sure you're eating sufficient carbohydrates. Actually, the carbohydrate part is more important than the protein part because we have protein, internal protein stores that we can utilize. That's 70 to 100 grams of endogenous protein that gets recycled daily. Okay. We can utilize that protein to supply protein needs if we're not meeting all of our protein needs. Okay. So by getting in the RDA, it's saying, hey, you're getting in enough. Okay. But if you're not consuming enough carbs, you're going to be turning protein into glucose. Your body's not going to care if you're getting in, the 46 grams of protein a day or 90 grams of protein a day. If your carbohydrate intake is insufficient, you're going to be turning protein into glucose. Okay. So you have to have the correct amount of glucose there, sufficient glucose intake through carbohydrates in order to protect that protein from being turned into glucose and to protect your muscles from being broken down into glucose. Okay. So carbohydrates are muscle protective. And then when you eat sufficient calories from carbohydrates, you naturally get, sufficient protein without having to take protein powders or eat overt protein sources. But it does depend on your goals. Like I said, eating more protein increases IGF-1. It does this with plant protein, but to a lesser extent than animal protein. But it still does this. And so it has an anabolic effect on muscle growth if that is the goal, but you have to make sure the carbohydrates are there first. I'm Christian, and we consider fasting to be imperative for good spiritual and physical health as it starves out parasites. Yeah, many religions fast, but fasting programs us for fat storage. And what you need to do to starve out parasites is not eat animal products that contain them. Okay, Christina's dad is a fruit and vegetable wholesaler, so she has access to way more volume of items to make these juices than the rest of the world. Yeah. I mean, Christina is like a fruit and vegetable fairy princess, right? Like, is what she's doing practical for the majority of people? No, it's not. And the other thing too is that, like, are the people that are watching Christina's content like doing what she's doing, or are they just like here for entertainment, because she's got 1.5 million subs. So I'm just curious about that. Do you follow Christina? Let me know down below. Anyways, that's it for today's video. Thank you so much for tuning in. Leave any comments or questions down below for my coaching services. You can check out the link in the description, the work with me. It'll take you to my coaching page where I offer a private Facebook coaching group with a lifetime membership or a trial membership for month to month. Also, I do one-on-one coaching through Zoom, and I also have my coaching program up there that contains all the information that you need to be successful with the high carb, low fat diet, why it works, learning how your metabolism functions, and then how to apply the information for your day-to-day life to, get the results. Okay. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.